Okay, I just had lunch and I usually cough after I eat, so if I do, forgive me. I was just thinking about how it's a lot easier to go through life thinking things were meant to be. The good news is that's pretty much true. So I've said many times, if you can convince me that the past is not set, then you can begin to convince me that the future is not set. Let me set this down here. Yeah, the past, the present, the future, it's set. You'd think that would give you some comfort when you have all the anxiety of trying to make the best choices for the best possible outcome. Fortunately, it doesn't. And you gotta love it when the springtime does that. When the sun just comes out. Days like today, I'd almost prefer just to just be silent. I just love to listen on nice days like this. When you go through a tragedy, like when I lost my dogs, for example, I had to feel like it was for a reason. When I was forced to leave my childhood home in California and move out here, I had to feel like it was for a reason. Something bigger, greater, that could justify the loss and the pain, the suffering. And so I think this is natural to feel this way. I also think that it causes us to look for ways to make lemonade out of lemons. Life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Some bad things happen, try to see, when people are optimistic like this. My mom taught me to be like this. My mom was always like this. My mom had depression, but she was also strangely always an optimist. If that makes any sense, I don't know. She would always feel down, but at the same time she would always hope for the best. She always would try to find some good in bad things that happen. And I think that it's a very productive way of going about life. You know, if you take a defeat, it's only really a defeat if you don't learn a lesson. Then yeah, it was just a loss and that's it. But if you learned a lesson, if you were able to make something equally good or maybe even more good come out of it, then you could look at it as simply a necessary step in a sequence of events. And this is why meant to be is helpful. when you think about the past and where it's taken you, if you've made the effort. There was a time when I think it was about 6 or 7 years after I moved out here, I began to feel like there was no point to me moving out here. I couldn't see it. And then as I began to lose my dogs, then I really felt like there was no point to me moving out here. I was just out here to spend time with my dogs before they passed. And then now that they're gone, then it felt like, well, that was it, you know? And it feels like I've come to a dead end sometimes if all I look at is everything up to right now. But one thing I can say is the person that they made me, the person that my dogs made me, that's right, they changed me. They shaped my personality. Those 3 dogs, between the 3 of them, they shaped me. And it's not over yet. Sometimes it takes longer than 6 years or 7 years or 8 years. It's been 11 years now. I'm starting to get an idea what it may have been about. I had this suspicion and feeling that as I left California, that my wife was not out there. And that she was somewhere else, and I believe that the beginning of that journey to find her started the moment I left California and came to Kentucky. And I wouldn't have been working at that pet store if Jenna hadn't started limping when she did. I was freaked out. I thought I'm going to immediately have to take her to the dog vet. So I immediately looked for a job, and I worked at the pet store. And really everything from then has been like everything that's happened from working at the pet store. I could have worked here or there, any other place in town, or at least I think I could have, right? But it's like I was meant to work at that pet store. And I didn't ever understand why, and I have maybe some suspicions by this point, but after a sequence of events and meeting different people, long story short, turns out I have PTSD, anxiety, and that I'm bipolar. And that explains much about my life up to this point. That it has not been easy. It explains a lot, really. And I would not have ever discovered this. Oh man, I'm going to get emotional. I wouldn't have discovered this if I hadn't moved out here. I wouldn't have moved out here if I didn't have my dogs. I moved out here because I needed a place with yard space. Space for my dogs. I didn't want them cooped up in some little apartment all day. They needed a place. Ironically, they are cooped up in the house. They were a lot of the times because of all the ticks out here, so that's kind of ironic. But I ended up out here because of my dogs, and I ended up working at that pet store because of Jenna. I got Jenna because of Toby. I got Toby because my mom passed and my dad remarried, and it was my stepsister who found Toby. Do you see the... Mom passed, stepsister found Toby, Toby came into my life, Toby caused me to want to get Jenna. I had dogs, and I needed a place with a yard. I moved out here. Jenna's limping leg caused me to get a job at the pet store. I met the people that I did there because I was working at the pet store because of Jenna. I thought I knew why. I thought maybe it was because of some of the other people that I met earlier, that's what it all led to. I think I was mistaken there. I ended up wandering for a little bit, working at different jobs. I ended up having to Well, see a doctor for a number of years. And the rest of my life from here on out is kind of history from it. It's like my dog, Toby, without... Oh, man, I'm going to get emotional. There's almost no way. I'm thinking about this, man. It's like Toby led me out of oppression. He led me out of... Or not so much Toby, but my love for Toby led me out of California. It led me out of all kinds of bad situations. And it led me to this nice, still place. It led me to a place to rest, to heal. And so even though I was the one that seemed to be working for him all these years, paying for all of his food and all of his vet bills and all that stuff, it was strange how he has, through that process, actually brought me into a much better life. It's hard to imagine a life without him, that's all. I don't like thinking that things just had a purpose, like, you know, a hammer was meant to bang a nail in and then it's done and then it dies, but it's hard not to look back on my life and think, you know, everything really served its full purpose. And even was allowed a little bit of extra. So for example, my mom, it's like her purpose was to raise me and my sister to adulthood. And that's basically right when she left, when I was 21 and my sister was 19. And then she left. She was a mom. She raised us. She left. Because she left, my dad remarried. Stepsister found Toby. And then Toby, what could you say his purpose? He's at 16 years now. I think it's pretty safe to say that most of his purpose has been is visible. Like, take Jenna. What was her purpose? Jenna's purpose was to help me get out here, move out here, live out here, and then get a job at that pet store. That was her purpose. Her arthritis that she had since she was 2 years old, it scared me when I saw her limping, so I freaked out and I got a job at the pet store, and the people I met there began to change everything. After, I'd say about, let's see, she passed when she was 13 and a half. She still was around for at least 2.5, 3 more years after she had already finished her purpose. Her purpose was to get me into that pet store. Here's the funny part. Faith didn't really serve a purpose, poor little dog. She didn't really serve a purpose except she made Jenna happy. She kept Jenna company because Toby just always ignored other dogs. He's always just only cared about me. He doesn't care about other dogs or people. That's just the way he is. Jenna was very lonely. I got Faith because Jenna was lonely. Jenna always wanted a little kid, so she got her a little kid. What was I going to say? Yeah, Jenna was still here years after she finished her purpose. My mom was still years after she finished her purpose. You could say my sister at 19, at least 1 year after my sister was a legal adult, you know. I mean, it could have honestly been 18, 17, 20. I mean, the whole point is she raised her kids till they were adults, then she left. My dogs brought me out here. Jenna was here long enough until I got that job at that pet store, and then she left. Faith didn't serve a purpose, for me anyway. She did for Jenna. Okay, I want to say, when I say this, this is being unfair. I obviously loved all of my dogs, and like I said, I don't like talking about living beings like they're a tool, like there's this purpose, and then once they've served their purpose, you throw them away and you get new ones. No. And I hate that feeling too. I'm just saying, in terms of looking at how life has progressed and how things play out, it's interesting how things seem to have served a purpose for moving people, changing history, really, on a very small level, but still changing something. Yeah, my dogs changed something. They changed me. My dogs changed me. That's right. What no woman could do, these dogs were able to succeed at. They changed me. But here's Toby. Toby's still here. And one would ask, well, then what was Toby? Oh, man. I can't say it. Toby's purpose it's too hard to say. Toby's purpose was to see me into the next chapter of my life. Toby's purpose was to be there when no one else was. Toby's purpose was to be there when I wept. Toby's purpose was to keep me from killing myself after I lost the other dogs. He's pretty much achieved all of his purpose except one thing, which is to see me into the next chapter of my life. And that's why it hurts. That's why I'm in no rush. But it's sad because I see it. I don't know of any other purpose or reason why he would stay beyond that, but I would like him, like I said, to carry over a little bit. I would like him to be able to see what's next. To see me into it. It's crazy. There were times I would take him to a nearby stream or something like that, or the lake nearby, and I always just thought about that verse about how he leads me to still waters. And I always led Toby to calm waters. And it's crazy how he was used to lead me to calm waters. So then, what's my purpose then, right? If all these supporting actors are taking, pulling their shift. And here's another interesting thing though. Faith was not meant to be in my little dog Faith. She was not meant to be in my life after Toby's gone. See, one of the reasons I kept her was because I thought, well, she's 5.5 years younger than these two. She should be the one to outlive them. And she should end up living for a long time after Toby. Of course, she ended up being the first one to go. Of course, it's just life, It doesn't go the way you expect or plan. But that's a little clue to me. It's like I wasn't meant to. She wasn't meant to be in my life after Toby passes. For some reason, and I don't know why. Maybe I moved from place to place. I don't know. I just know she wasn't. But back to what I was saying, I have to ask myself then, what is my purpose? I was supposedly told when I was 19 who I am and what I do. It was a very strange experience. And I can see how a lot of it adds up. I can see how a lot of it would be consistent with who I am and so on. I wonder if I finally accomplish that purpose, if that's when I finally get to leave. I don't know. I'm going to pick this up here and get the clouds. The clouds are really nice today. I do like it when the camera is on the patio and it gets to be still, but look at these clouds. It's really pretty when the sun comes out and bounces off of them. Now, what would happen if a person looked at life in a different way where they thought they had no purpose? I know people say, why would you say that? Why would you? Because let's look at it from other people's perspectives. You know, other people, they'll go through their life not thinking they have purpose. It's sad. Well, the purpose I've talked about right now, what it seems to be, is I didn't mention it in this video, I don't want to. But apparently my purpose benefits a great many people. And it's kind of sad how I really didn't get to have much of a life in order to do this. But, you know, like I said, look at my mom. She pulled her shift. She passed at 44. Listen to what I'm saying. If my mom did not die, my dad would not have remarried. I would not have met Toby. I would not have got Jenna as well. I would not have ended up moving to Kentucky. I wouldn't have met the people I did out here. I wouldn't become the person that I am. Sequence of events. And everybody wants to know, what's the big why, right? Don't we all want to just be able to see it all at once and understand how it all fits together? Why it all makes sense. It would be nice, right? That's why people who have near-death experiences, they usually share that kind of stuff, you know. And, you know, there's lots of smaller purposes that go without mentioning. I mean, as I've been out here and as I've done what I've done out here, I've impacted other people in smaller ways. When I modified StarCraft 2, for example, I met different people. I affected them in different ways. So I don't want anybody to think I have only one purpose. It's just that there's a big one and then there's lots of smaller ones. So, for example, the big one, like for Jenna and Toby, was to get me out here and to get me through it. It's oh my gosh, it's sad even as I say that. But, you know, smaller purposes was, or you know what, actually maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that's the smaller purpose. And listen, I'm convinced that the time that I had it here with my dogs, it was precious, it was heavenly. It was something that God loved, it was something that He's going to keep. And that, I think, could have been actually the main purpose, or one of the bigger purposes. The rest of it seems like it was just, what's the word? Like going through the motions, just to kind of push life on Earth along. But I sometimes think that that was actually the highest purpose. It's like how even when I was a kid, I had a purpose. I brought my grandma joy. Me and my sister brought my grandma joy. I've talked about that in a lot of other recordings. I remember as a kid, in her last years, my grandma spent a lot of time with us, and she was very alone. She was widowed for like almost 20 years. She was in her 70s, and we brought her a lot of joy, just existing, just being the way we were. We were like her dogs, if you will. And so we had a purpose back then, even though we didn't know it. For 11 years, the recording is about to end. I can never remember if this thing ends at 30 minutes or 27, or I don't know what it is, but I might save this for the next recording, actually. It's kind of on the same subject, but okay, it just switched over. Yeah, it's a little after 26 minutes. I'm learning now. One of the things I'm thinking is that one of the easy ways of knowing what your purpose is what you're good at and what you like to do, when it's both, when it's the same thing. You're good at it and you like to do it. Oh, and here's the other one. Yeah, it actually impacts other people in a beneficial way. It could impact one person in a big way or lots of people in a little way. But if it impacts other people in a positive way, it's something you enjoy doing, and it's something you're good at. This is probably your purpose. And sometimes you'll have multiple things. This is why it's confusing, it's frustrating for me. People will usually say that I'm good at writing. I've heard that many times throughout my life. And, of course, I have never come close to finishing a book. I'm like, I'll take your word for it because I don't buy it. When they say I'm a good writer, I'm like, I might be a good writer, but I don't have the perseverance to finish anything. So that's a problem. You need that to be a good writer. It's one of the ingredients, to making anything with words. The perseverance to finish it. And that's something that, maybe through fictional stories could bring some people some joy. Or maybe through just discussion and debate, maybe you could bring some people out of ignorance, or maybe enlighten some people. That's the nicer way of saying bring them out of ignorance. Why? See, I'm a jerk as I go. So people could benefit from if I did something with writing. It's something I'm good at. It's something I only kind of like, though. That's the thing. I don't really enjoy it like a lot. It's just something I kind of do. Most of the time I've written when I'm trying to get away from negative things. I'm having to do something like write an appeal or something like that, So that's an example of something it's okay. It's kind of a thing. Computer games is something that I've worked on as a hobby for quite a while, long time, 20 years I should say. I haven't ever finished anything yet. Hopefully that changes soon. That's something that people could enjoy. That's something that I'm good at and I like doing. I should say this is like writing, only that I'm good at it and I enjoy it are flipped. So I actually enjoy working on computer game projects more than I enjoy writing, but I'm not as good at working on making a computer game that I am at writing. So that's unfortunate. That's why it's taking so long, I think. But there's an example of something else that's something that I'm good at, that I like doing, and that could benefit other people. So writing and computer games, those are the two things that I've tried to spend a lot of time doing whenever I feel like doing it. But like this past week when that dog vet gave me that BS news, man, I was devastated. And like a number of times throughout my life, I'll just have these weeks or even months where I don't feel like working on anything like that. And it's really unfortunate, and I feel like this is why I feel like I never have enough time. It's sad. It's like I have the ability, but I don't have the time, which kind of means I don't fully have the ability, if you will, if you think about that, Because like I say, perseverance is one of those things. The ability to filter out what's going on in life and focus. Like that is one of the requirements to make something, you know. But this bee, man. This bee just does not like that I'm chilling right here. Or maybe he's just getting closer to here a little better. I don't know. So those are two things for me. Writing and computer games are two things for me. But supposedly, and I don't like sharing this much, what I was told when I was 19 is a little unlike those two. Well, it's a lot unlike computer games, and it's a little unlike writing. But I can see how if it was made possible, it would probably be taking everything I've learned my whole life, every obstacle I've had to overcome, everything, my ability to communicate, for example, it would be taking all of that and using it in a beneficial way to people, and probably in the most beneficial way to people. And that might bring more joy than I might imagine it might. Like right now I'm thinking that it's not, this is the least joyful one for me. It's the one that I would enjoy the least. But it would benefit people the most. And so there are three things I have in my mind as to what is my purpose. Some say, well, maybe it's all three. It's true. It's possible. You can only devote yourself to so much per day, though, you know, and so much per week. You can have you could have 3 projects that are 60% done before you pass, and that would be really sad because you didn't ever strap down and just focus on just one each season of your life, you know. But back to what I was saying in the last recording. Oh, that's what I was asking. I wonder, what would it be like, though, if a person felt like they didn't have a purpose? Because a lot of people, especially young people, they've been brainwashed by nihilism to think that the existence is not conscious and that there is no meaning or purpose. I found great meaning and value with my time with my dogs out here. It didn't produce anything physically. It's not something that anyone else benefited from, but it was something between them and me, just my time out here. You know, whenever I'd cut the grass, afterwards, they'd just be out in the yard. And we would just sit out in the yard. We would watch a sunset. I mean, it was, and the little dog would like to be chased, and I would throw the ball for Toby. I mean, it was just nice evenings. And we did that for 8 years. And I find that to be purpose. In the recording I did a couple ago, I talked about how I believe that the God of heaven would command us to live. I believe, in fact, he did in his own way when he said, I came that they would live and have life to the fullest. That doesn't mean go all out hedonism. That means seek joy, not pleasure, joy. Some of my favorite times and memories were playing board games with friends. Or like I said, my time in the yard with my dogs. That's joy. Okay, that's joy. And I think that is, for most people, their highest or best purpose. Some of us, unfortunately, I was like, however, that's nice for you guys, for normies who haven't been dubbed with more burdensome tasks of dealing with the wretched wickedness of this world and the oppression of its enslaving ways, you know. You guys can just focus on just finding some little piece of joy. I command you to live. It's as simple as that. Some people, unfortunately, we don't get off so easy. I mean, I got to experience that for a little bit just to know what most people need to be focused on, so I know what to speak to. But sadly for me, I do have to focus on things like why sin is able to be so victorious in this world, and how to end that, and how to solve lots of problems that our world suffers from, and things like that. So there is that, but here's the beauty of it. I know this is a volunteer army, and at any point in time, if I feel like, at least right now anyway, if I feel like I don't want to have to deal with bigger, more hard and burdensome issues, then I don't have to. I can just put it on the shelf. I'm still in a very early prep mode. I can put it on the shelf and I can go back to something else. It's more simple. Like a computer game or something, you know. But this bee, man. You know, I'm probably standing right next to its home. That's why he can't go into his house until I leave. So he's just, when is this guy gonna stop? I don't know either, bud. I do these recordings because it gives me a good feeling. I like to do them, especially on such a nice day. Yeah, it's in the upper 60s, I think. And when you're in the sun, it feels so nice. What I do know is that our purpose is not to suffer. Okay, let me speak to this stuff. I think it's important. Our purpose is not to suffer. Our purpose is not to be slaves so other people can have bigger, fancier, shiny things. Our purpose was not to be slaves. Our purpose was to create joy. Our purpose was to create treasure in heaven. Our purpose was not to be slaves. It was not to be miserable. Our purpose was not to be a cog in the machine. Our purpose was not to be slaves to the wealthy. That is not our purpose. That is how you are in the wrong direction. You're positioned in the wrong place in life. I left everything I knew in California to come live out in the woods. It's partly because it's all I could afford, but even if I couldn't, or even if that wasn't an issue, I still would have preferred something like this anyway. And it's the way we... Listen, society is changing very rapidly. AI and robots will be replacing human slaves probably within this next decade. You're going to see a giant shift between humans to robots and automation. And I really hope that humanity can develop something like a universal wage or something for people to live off of, because if they don't, it's going to be a horror. It is going to be a horror movie with a couple wealthy people, families owning all of the companies and machines, and the majority of the people homeless, owning nothing, and basically being hunted down by robots. It's like Terminator, only it's not Skynet that came self-aware, it's just humans that program the machines to kill the humans, you know? That's the more realistic version. But no, we were not meant to be slaves. We were called out of slavery. Slavery does something horrible to a person. It causes their soul to weep. It causes a very awful sound in the ears of God. We were not meant to be slaves. I remember when my sister came out to visit years back. She brought her kids. And two of them were on these pony rides over at the this horse park. And I saw the ponies, and I don't want to say I felt bad for them. I mean, they live well. I mean, they're fed well. They've got a daylight. But there's something about it as I looked at these ponies. It kind of reminded me of all of the animals that were used in history to do war and to pull things all day and all night to farm. And I just thought, it's something about it that just feels off. When you see like the cows out here just grazing on the grass, it's like life as it's meant to be. When you see an animal that's literally just being worked like a robot, that has no feelings, that has no, feels no pain, it's wrong. And for a long time, people denied that animals could feel pain. People deny. Yeah, I can't believe that. For a while, people they just don't complain about pain as much. That's all. People actually for a long time said that animals don't feel pain. They said that basically slaves don't feel pain. Basically, the human working class doesn't feel pain. That's so they can ease their own conscience. No, we do feel pain, and animals feel pain, and it's not good to make things suffer for any reason. No, we were not meant to be a slave. You were not meant to be a breeder, as I would call it. People whose sole purpose is just to breed. Making kids everywhere. Better to have one kid that you could devote all of your effort to than a bunch of kids that you could just care less about because you just don't have the time. And no, we weren't meant here just to breed or just to be a slave or no. This is a strange experience. Being a conscious being in this existence, it's a strange thing, it really is. That we are aware of the consciousness of existence. That's the other word for our other way of saying God. That we are aware of God. That we are aware of the possibility that all of existence is aware of us. We're aware of that. It's a strange thing, I'm telling you. It's a unique thing. All the matter in this universe, all the matter in existence, but only this little tiny bit of matter was chosen to be aware that it exists, and possibly everything is aware, if you will. I said that wrong. Not that everything is aware, like a rock is aware or a blade of grass is aware. You know what I mean. I've said this many times, so I'll say it again today. I just like to say it almost every recording if I can. So we have to assume either way. When you don't know something one way or the other, you have to assume one way or the other. So the question is, which way is the safer way to assume, the more reasonable way to assume, etc. But when you're in a situation where you have no evidence either way, and you really don't know, it really just comes up to what you want to believe, what you want to assume. Okay? And so take like the human brain. The universe has been around for what, 13.8 billion years? Okay. Now, this is just a baby universe, and as I suspect, there are probably an infinite number of universes out there. So far away we can't see them. This universe could simply just be the electron in an atom that extends upwards and downwards, meaning existence can just be infinite on up and down levels, and if you were to just travel outward, you would never come back. There is no edge to the universe. There's only an edge of as far as we can see because of light and delay, but there's no actual edge to the universe. If you just went out in one direction, you would never come back. If you had infinite time, you would never come back. Infinite, okay? Big. And I've always said, if you're talking about big things, you should always assume big rather than small. So if you're talking about existence, you should probably assume that it's infinite, not finite, right? Is there an edge of the universe, as they say? Well, if we don't know and we'll never know, guess what? Just say, it's probably safe to say that there is no edge, that it's infinite. Do you follow? And so, take the human brain. It took only 14 billion years of this universe to be around to create, through chance, to create a human brain which is aware of its own existence, talks about things like right and wrong, fairness, justice, is aware of the suffering of others, etc. Okay, it took 14 billion years to make that. Okay, a very small amount of time, very small amount of time compared to how long this universe is set to exist. And the human brain is a very complex thing compared to most creation. Compared to everything, our planet, our sun, everything. A human brain is the assembly, and through chance, what it is, it's a very complex thing. We still don't understand fully how we are conscious, but we are. Okay. So if it only took 14 billion years to make kind of a somewhat complex thing that is aware of itself, and existence is infinitely more complex and has potentially been here without beginning or end. See where I'm going with this? The atheist assumes that existence is less conscious than a human brain rather than more conscious than a human brain. That's a problem. That's a mistake. I think it's safer to assume that existence is conscious. Just because we don't see it or are aware of it doesn't mean... Sometimes a thing that is so big can seem non-existent. And sometimes it's our inability to comprehend it or be aware of it. So believe it or not, there just might be a God. For those atheists listening, there just might. It makes more sense to think that there is, considering the complexity of existence versus the complexity of human brain, also versus the time existence has been, which is eternal, possibly, versus the time the human brain has been around, which is only 14 billion, or actually, no, not 14. It took 14 billion years to make it, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, I'm assuming that there is a consciousness to existence. I think it's the safer assumption, truly. Try it on. Try it on. All the other stuff is worth talking about later, since this video is about to come to an end. Stuff like, does that consciousness guide everything or not? Is it just causality? Does it just play out and it's aware of it? You know, that's all stuff I talk about in other recordings. I don't want to start that here since this one's about to end. But give it a chance. Just try it on. That all of existence is conscious. Try it. It starts to make sense. It also causes you to look at people in the past who just believe that existence was less conscious than the human brain. It's kind of like people who just saw the earth as flat because they couldn't comprehend how it could be spherical. You know, people who assume there were no alien life in this universe because we're just the best thing that ever was, you know. And it's this kind of arrogance and pride that keeps people from thinking that there's something bigger than them. It keeps them from wanting to think that. Well, let go of the ego and just think about what I said about complexity and time and consciousness and the pattern there. Okay. That bee believes it has infinite time. It is infinitely patient with me. Hasn't stung me yet, knock on wood. What is the purpose of that bee? The purpose of that bee is to chew up my patio so one of these days it'll collapse on my head. Look at this. These bees, these carpenter bees, normally I'd leave them alone. I like bees, but these bees I have to spray whenever I do or can because they are chewing this patio up. I will not have a patio here pretty soon because of these flying termites here. It's sad because I mean they're kind of cute and I don't want to have to kill them, but it's either them or my patio, and I choose my patio. Okay. All right. I wish there was a way to repel them. There isn't. So. It's almost too pretty today. I'm serious. It's almost too pretty. A dessert that's too sweet almost. Makes you almost miss summer or winter when it was nice to be inside, you know.